Welcome, gamers, to Super Beard Bowl Season 2. Each month, we're doing an all-new 8-episode series complete with a beginning and an end, as voted on by you, our loyal viewers. Without paying a single penny, everyone who watches will be able to vote on one of 4 show ideas, and once you narrow it down from 4 to 2, the Beard Bowl Patreon tier will then choose between the top 2 for which show gets made into a full 8-episode series. This month, the winning series is Beard Bros Movie Reviews. Brett, Jirard, and Alex watch and review movies that you guys thought they might enjoy. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So until then, just sit back, relax, and enjoy another incredible episode of Super Beard Bowl. Guys, welcome back to episode 7 of Beard Bros Movie Reviews Part 2. Today, we are recording the review of a movie called Jack and Jill. Adam Sandler's sort of like, I don't even know. I feel like it was like a wake-up call for him. Because after he did this is when he went to Netflix, I think. It was like shortly thereafter.
Is that some sort of wake-up call? What did he make the first thing he made in Netflix?
Just a bunch of other crappy movies. But yeah, he
seems like he's still dreaming.
Well, here's what happened was I feel like Jack and Jill came out. And then they made that movie Funny People where he like kind of plays like a sad version of himself, right? And in that movie, they like make fun of all the movies that he makes that are like kind of like Jack and Jill. And then he was like, I feel like he was already just on the train of like making movies so he could hang out with his friends in weird places all over the world. You know, right. I feel like he didn't care very much about the final product of the movie. And then he finally just sort of like wore that on his sleeve with Netflix, I feel like.
Oh, because the awakening wasn't like, quote unquote, I should make better movies. The awakening was like, I know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why Adam Sandler's reputation is largely preserved, right? I feel like people still view him as like a very like funny comedian, right?
I don't know. We may be getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, we should talk a little bit about Jack and Jill, the movie.
That's Alex. My name's Brett.
Hi.
We're here to talk about Jack and Jill, which is an Adam Sandler vehicle from 2011. Jack and Jill is, if you've seen a lot of Happy Madison productions, then you pretty much already know the tone of Jack and Jill. But as far as the premise goes, it's pretty simple. Semi-successful advertising executive is continually embarrassed by his like boisterous, embarrassing twin sister.
Yeah, who he repeatedly tries to get date raped by Al Pacino, the real actor.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, which is the crux of the movie, actually.
A lot of plot hinges on Pacino having sex with Jill. It's true.
But I want to say something. I didn't know that the Dunkachino bit came from this movie. I thought that was a real thing.
I've never heard of Dunkachino before this movie.
I thought the Dunkachino commercial was like a Japanese commercial or something like that. Like they used to have the clip for Dunkachino online, and I thought that was a real thing. I had no idea
so you're saying
that
the clip from this movie you saw out of context.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And let me just say this, there's a lot of clips from Jack and Jill that in 2020 out of context are just so embarrassing for like everyone involved.
Maybe we should get to. I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to begin speaking on this because I feel like this might be the meatiest thing that I wanted to talk about today, but maybe we should just jump into it.
I think we got 20 minutes. Like let's get there.
Yeah, you're right. First off, did you enjoy the film? Yes or no?
It made me feel like
yes or no.
No way.
Neither did I. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I did not enjoy the film either.
I felt dumber after. Like I felt like I went through something that like took something from me.
That's super real.
Yeah. Like this movie and the movie we're watching next, like I did a double barrel on them and I was like,
right.
I felt like tired, like of being a person afterwards. Like that's how little I enjoyed this.
The movie after this was refreshing after this one, though, in my opinion.
I watched them in the reverse order, so it was just all downhill.
Anyway, Jack and Jill. Well, how do I put this? I think this is a very easy. This might be the easiest movie of all time. This might be the easiest of Sandler's movies to kick him with, to kick him while he's down with, like, yeah, but you did Jack and Jill, motherfucker. You know what I mean? I think it's very easy to do.
So many scenes in this movie.
I think this is the quintessential make fun of Adam Sandler movie. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to, like, I think it's too easy. It's too easy to, like, be like, yeah, man, that movie sucks. I think it's too easy to talk about how he's gone downhill and he used to be funny. I'm not going to do that. But he's
still funny. That's, like, not the issue here.
What I will do is this, though. I'll say that those are all sentiments that I think a lot of us have obviously felt over the years in some degrees, but I've never really expressed those because, once again, like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't add anything to just, like, make fun of a guy, especially a guy that's like, fucking make fun of him. The dude's making millions still. So what I will say instead is that something I've been noticing for years now, and I guess this is the place to talk about it, is that I feel like there was a shift. There was a critical point where there was a shift in Adam Sandler. And it's very similar to the shift. We call it the robot shift when it comes to Eddie Murphy. We call it that because me and some of my people predicted that, or hypothesized that at a certain point, Eddie Murphy was replaced with a robot. Like,
is that in the movie Dave when he literally is replaced with a robot?
Ironically enough, no. It's long before Dave. But the reason we say that is because, like, obviously artists go through changes in their careers. They evolve and whatever. But with Eddie Murphy, it felt like there was a fucking switch. Like, he was like a very different, like raw Eddie Murphy is so different from the Eddie Murphy you see at, like, award shows today, who crosses his legs and looks out and is like, yeah. You know what I mean? I get it. Everyone gets older. Everyone changes. But with Eddie Murphy, it seemed like there was this. And it happened around right after
Dr. Dolittle?
Right after, like, Nutty Professor, the first one, right?
Yeah.
Where he started to, like, take on different roles like that. He just didn't seem like himself. Adam Sandler, I think has gone through something similar. I'm not saying Adam Sandler's now a Cylon. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that I think there was a shift, and I can even I would love to try and find that point of shift with you. And I think I've identified what happened, or part of what made the shift evident to us.
Are you pointing at Jack and Jill as his, like, shift?
No. Jack and Jill is almost a nadir where the general public became aware, like, man, Adam Sandler's different. But of course, that shift happened years earlier. And I think the biggest evidence of that shift, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, is this. This is the biggest thing I've finally put into words when watching this movie for the show. Adam Sandler made a movie career for himself playing underdogs.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, he stopped playing underdogs and instead, I think, tried to play everyman, but ended up coming across as, like, really lucky, privileged dudes who are just kind of jerks.
Who are, like, dealing with something that, like, more normal people just, like, live with as, like, a plot of a movie.
And it's fine that he's dealing with it, but it's like, you don't want to root for him because it's like, you live in a fucking mansion, your wife is fucking beautiful, and you have 2 great kids. And I'm not talking about just Jack and Jill. That's, like, grown-ups. It's a couple of, like, I've seen a lot of Adam Sandler movies, man. Like, this is a pattern. Just like being an underdog was a pattern with him before. A pattern isn't a bad thing, but I think we can both agree that when you continue to play the underdog, like your Billy Madison's, who was somewhat of a jerk, but definitely an underdog, your Happy Gilmore, who was certainly an underdog, and, like, even your Little Nickies, right? An underdog. You kind of want to root for them. But when you get characters like in this movie, who has everything from the get-go.
Dude, like, look at his fucking kitchen, dude.
Right.
I was watching I'm really glad you brought this up because I was just watching a interview with, I think it was Bill Burr. It was on Hot Ones or something like that. I think it was Bill Burr. And they were talking about how rappers and stand-up comedians are, like, kind of similar.
Oh, I would love to hear this theory. Explain.
just like, you know, it's all about sort of like you and your thing and just kind of like putting your essence out there and sort of like growing with your audience from being like a small time thing to like a big deal. But the big difference in like the end game of rappers and comedians is that like rappers get to just like go into their like rich person life at the end of their career when they've hit that million records and just sort of like it's tight to like brag about the things that you have.
Okay.
You can brag about your mansion, you can brag about all this shit, but with comedians there's like an element of like relatability that like needs to remain to keep the connection.
That is true. You're right about that. You're right about that. In rap there are like in rap, it's true. There are plenty of songs where you're like, I relate to that. Like, you know, broken glass everywhere. But there's also
it's aspirational.
Yeah. And there's also the aspirational part where it's like, look at how much money I have. We party. And people love that shit. But you're right.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is very hard. It's almost non-existent in comedy. You're right.
Yeah. And so you look at somebody like Jerry Seinfeld, or you look at somebody like Kevin Hart, or somebody like that who's like, you see Kevin Hart and he's like, I got in a car accident with my fucking like Corvette, like fucking $1 million car, and I'm like so hurt, but I'm like fine like a month later, and everybody's like, my heart goes out to Kevin Hart. Sure. It's like so hard. But you know, it's this weird dichotomy of like, how do you, if you don't know the slice of bread, like the price of a slice of bread anymore, right, like how can you write a joke that is like meaningful to the general public? And I feel like with comedians, there's also this element like that the moment you sort of like flip into that, and I think this is very, very clear with Eddie Murphy, even though he's been sort of like successful pretty much since he was like 20 years old.
Right.
You know, his success on SNL and with Rod did not look the same as his success in the 90s when he became like a family comedian. And I think it's because you lose the edge. Like comedians stop being exciting if they're not like a little bit counterculture-y, you know what I mean? Like, I guess like somebody like Robin Williams sort of defies that mark, but even those people, like you can still go to their comedy when they're in their older age, and you can look at them tell jokes, and the jokes, as long as the jokes still hit that sort of flavor, it's all right. But the movies themselves, man, like you go like, why do you like Eddie Murphy, right? Like you like him because of his previous work. And when you come to a movie with him, like Jack and Jill, and you're thinking of a movie like The Waterboy or Billy Madison, one of the original, or Happy Gilmore, one of the classic movies, not only is he an underdog, but he's also like teens think he's funny because he's like a guy who's going against the rules, and he's like doing things that are gross, and when you watch him in these newer movies, it's like through the lens of like, I always imagine him as like hanging out with my uncles or something, like the dudes who like drink beers and polo shirts at the sports bar, you know, like that kind of like 90s dad vibe is where Adam Sandler's at for me right now. And so I just feel so like I start picking apart the movie much more than I would, you know, in a more edgy comedic situation, because he's not really pushing any boundaries. And a lot of the jokes that are funny, like there are gags in Jack and Jill that are funny. You know what I mean? Like Adam Sandler is still a funny guy. Like
now's probably the best time to mention that Al Pacino is far and away the best part of this film.
He is, and at the same time, I feel like they didn't really give him a lot to do. Like he has like scenes, and it almost feels like they didn't write the scenes. Like they just like sort of like had some things they needed to do in the scenes and then just sort of like let them riff.
Hey,
I don't know how.
That's Al Pacino for you, man.
I don't know how they got him to say yes to this.
Right.
I honestly don't, because there's nothing about this that makes him look even like he's like in on it. Really.
I mean, yeah, Pacino's incredible. He plays himself, and he's like a cartoon version of himself, and it's pretty good, you know. The
best scene with him is when he's attacking the fan at the end as Don Quixote. That made me laugh so much. Right. But that's the thing. It's like this movie was like half Adam Sandler dad vibes, half like look who we could get to be in this movie, and half just like
glad you brought
shit
that up.
is like shit that is like so out there. Like, how do you have a son and his traits are adopted Indian son who tapes shit to himself, and that's like he hits that note like a million times throughout the movie, and like that's what he's there for.
Right.
Like it's so fucking weird. Or the daughter, her deal is just that she has a doll of herself all the time.
Yep.
Like, how is that a daughter?
Listen, I think it's very important to make clear at this point that I don't think you're saying this, but I'm not going to speak for you. I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not saying the reason that Jack and Jill is unenjoyable for us is because Adam Sandler changed. No, that's not why.
No.
But I think you did hit on something that I kind of have a note about over here, which is that you said a lot of the humor attempts to come from like, oh, look at that famous person over there, which I think is
literally
something
he's like, hey, look at Caitlyn Jenner. Like,
yeah, there's something that's like commonly employed by a lot of these later Adam Sandler films. As in like a lot, like a good amount of the comedy just comes from like, hey, this celebrity is also in the film.
That guy from the commercial yelled. That's sort of character for him.
Right. And
yeah.
And once again, that's not why the movies, I didn't enjoy it. It's not. And even like you said, when they have like extremely one-dimensional characters, okay, now we're starting to get to the like the stuff where I'm like, this kind of is what ruins the film. I think these Adam Sandler films, these Happy Madison productions, if you will, they all rely on the same techniques over and over. Like there's a reason that there's a reason that they all feel so similar, and it's because they all employ a lot of the same techniques, right? But I think the group of techniques that the older Adam Sandler films employed, I enjoyed a lot better than the group of techniques that these employ. For example, like, you know, I don't care about all the celebrity friends that you parade around in this film, but I did enjoy having like maybe one wacky ass character played like a celebrity who had like a nice meaty role, like Carl Weathers, and you know, you like give him a real character with like actual feelings behind it. I enjoyed that.
Or Al Pacino. Yeah.
Yeah. Or in this one where it's like something else that Adam Sandler like does a lot is like he's always this is one that he's always done always. Adam Sandler attempts to get a lot of his comedy from like squeezing gags out of stereotypes and pointing at the other. You know what I mean? Like he's done it since way back. Like look, I love Wedding Singer, but like you remember like there was the fucking actor, like it was an Arquette. Like I think she transitioned at some point and she was playing like the Boy George obsessed singer in the band, and the gag was just like, what's going on with this person? Funny bit, in my opinion, but it's like, yeah, like we're pointing at literally that was like people like looking at the other and being confused, and it continues with Rob Schneider and Big Daddy. It continues with like the ambiguously gendered person in 50 First Dates. It continues in this movie with Jack and Jill, who was pointing at the other
Mexican people.
Yeah, that's like, what it was. There's a whole subplot with Mexican people where we're just like, you know, beans make you fart, and
the worst thing about that too is that the guy who plays Felipe, I don't know his name, but he's like, I know who he is. He's very famous from what's that movie? It's not called Batteries Not Included, but it's something like that. Huge, like it's like the most successful Mexican movie ever in the American market. He's like a writer, director, and in this movie he's like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
and you're like,
I cut the lawn. I mow the lawn. And like, it's fine. I get it. It's okay to have Mexicans on film mowing lawns. It's okay. And it's even okay to, in my opinion, do what Adam Sandler did, but it's a fucking pattern where like the gag is simply like, this culture is different.
And it also doesn't work when he's a rich white dude.
Like, and this is what makes it more apparent. You know how I said like making fun of the other is like something that he's been doing across the entire career, which once again is like, it's fine. It's just become a pattern with him. I think one of the biggest differences though, which probably relates to the very first thing I wanted to talk about today, which is that in the older films, his characters were often the butt of the joke. Like this fucked up thing happened to you, Billy Madison, or you, Little Nicky. And these
Bobby Boucher,
exactly. In these later films, he is rarely the butt of the joke. And I'm not saying, and I will never use that phrase punching down because I have no idea what it fucking means. And I'm not going to say, and that's why the movie fails and it's not funny. No, but I am saying I've noticed that change, and it's hard to root for the main character when once again he's not that relatable. He has everything he wants.
All he needs to do is stop being a shithead.
He's
like,
he's kind of a dick. Yeah,
he's a complete. That's like his whole arc is just that he's a shithead.
Right.
Like it's so like I don't understand what is like valuable about this movie. Like I don't remember almost anything that happens in it. Like I probably will forget it all by the next day. The one thing that actually I just want to give credit to really quick, just because I remember this moment and it made me laugh out loud, is when she turns and she sees that dude who's in all the Happy Madison movies about to eat the sandwich that has her bird in it. She's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "It flew in the bread."
Sure.
That's it. That made me laugh. I just want to shout that out because that was a genuine belly laugh it elicited from me.
Also, shout outs to this movie being genuinely and unequivocally connected to the rest of the Happy Madison universe, because that's the same homeless dude from Happy Gilmore, right? Like the caddy.
Yep.
It's got to be him.
I feel like it has to be. Yeah. David Spade in a titty dress was weird.
Very strange, but enjoyable.
Dana Carvey was in the movie for like 1 second, which was like really weird.
That's kind of what we were talking about. It's like a parade of friends that in itself is supposed to be enjoyable, when in reality I'm like, okay, it's Dana Carvey. And I love Dana Carvey, but if you just have him come out and say one line that doesn't do anything, I'm like, okay, sure.
Caitlyn Jenner was in the movie just to be like, look who's here. I don't even know what that was about, because that was like borderline making fun of trans people too. Like,
can we talk about how like fast this movie was? Like, this movie has such a simple premise. Like, Guy is forced to spend time with his overbearing, embarrassing twin sister. And wants to get rid of her. Simple. Easy. But they like move so goddamn fast on it. Like, we spend virtually no time establishing the normal and establishing what this guy wants. In fact, the only thing we see he wants is like, it's real generic and uninteresting, which is like, gotta make the bank with that advertising, you know.
Gotta get Al Pacino for the Dunkachino commercial.
Right. And as a result, nothing else is established. We don't know who his sister is in the normal. We don't know who his wife is. Like, what is she, like, what's her deal? She's completely one-dimensional, gone. And as you said, the two kids, fucking, we know nothing. They may as well not even be there. They're not even, they don't feel like characters. And I think that tone, that breakneck, too fast tone is not even just in the normal, where a lot of modern movies skip that shit. They skip the early parts that would make you care. This movie goes like this the whole time, which is almost like it doesn't want to commit to any one of its scenes or ideas, right? Like halfway through the film, they're like, we're on a cruise now. Just because we're on a cruise. And
literally they leave the cruise ship with a helicopter and a ladder to be like, you know what? Fuck that. And he gets back to the boat somehow. And also she leaves the boat somehow. I didn't really understand any of that, but I guess it makes sense.
Would you agree with that? This film like has this strange breakneck pace where nothing can cook. You know?
Yeah, it just basically tells you what's going to happen next. It doesn't even make sense that Al Pacino, for example, is at his surprise party, because Al Pacino doesn't know or like that guy.
Right.
And the fact that his coworkers who are dying to get access to Al Pacino, like that's the whole point of the movie, is that Al Pacino will not talk to them.
Right.
The fact that they got him to come to his like surprise party.
Yeah, they solve their own problem. It's over.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. Like things like that, where it's like, well, we needed to have Al Pacino here to like fuck the sister or whatever, like try and have sex with her. And then he like is gonna bring her to his house, but then he knows that it's her birthday and that she's sad about the birthday cake.
Right.
They just skip things that like you'd think. And then like, I remember there's one time where she wakes up in the woods. Jill does. And she's like, we had a fight last night. And it's like, that fight actually did not occur on screen. It's like they imply that the fight happened.
Right.
And it's just like, what's the point? Like, what is driving this movie forward? Like, they could have had the whole revelation of like, I should be a nice person, like after a conversation. Like none of this other stuff needed to happen. There were no stakes at any point.
True.
Adam Sandler is not in trouble in any way if he has a house like that.
Yeah, except exactly. The only trouble is like, gotta get rid of my sister, you know? I guess
because I want to relax.
Right.
It's like it.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my final thoughts on this are, no, I didn't enjoy this film, but that's not because Adam Sandler's changed. It's not because he's different and the movies are different. They are different, and he has changed, but everybody changes over time. I think this movie is unenjoyable for the same reason that a lot of movies are unenjoyable to me. This movie didn't take its time to make us care about the characters. Its comedy comes from places that are too fucking obvious, with characters announcing how they feel. If there's no surprise, you can see it. Like a key component of humor is delight, and a key component of delight is surprise. I don't know about you, but I was constantly ahead of this film. You see what's coming. You're not going to laugh. You're not going to have a good time.
Literally, the bird joke was the one that got me. That's right.
And lastly, yeah, this film didn't take its time. This film was entirely predictable. And also, this film, there was no one to root for, I guess. And I'm not one of those guys.
I guess you're supposed to root for Jill.
For Jill, yeah.
I guess. But she's not that sympathetic because she's really is just as like mean as Adam Sandler, as Jack is.
You know what made me root for Jill is if we had like a good 10, 15 minutes of the movie before she gets there, where we see her alone in Brooklyn, where we see what she wants every day, which is maybe like recognition or a man or something, so that we know how much the developments later in the film mean to her, as opposed to people telling us how she feels, like, hey, she's alone, right? And I'm like, I guess,
Yeah. Shout outs to Norm Macdonald also, who just did not make any choices in this film. It was so funny. He's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
I'm here to take you out to dinner. What's up? I don't know if I thought that was funny because I thought he was like aware of what he was doing, but I think I might be giving him too much credit. It just made me laugh so much that he like didn't do his Norm bit in this, and he just was like, hey, yeah, I want to go on a date. Actually, I got to go to the bathroom. And like, just like, that's his role.
Final thoughts? I gave my final thoughts. What are yours?
My final thought is you shouldn't watch this movie. It has no redeeming value. This is the first movie to sweep the Razzies, and with good reason. It is just a soulless movie. I wouldn't even say it's a cash cow because I don't even think it did that well, but it's just like a nothing movie. And I think that's what goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, which is like, once Adam Sandler realized that he doesn't need to make blockbusters anymore to like live his dream, I think he like is a happier man, and I'm glad he did, because I don't think I can handle more movies like this, like being advertised to me.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better. Shout outs to Adam Sandler. Like, he is a talented, funny guy. He will never not be a talented, funny guy. And if he wants to make movies like this, like, more power to him, dog. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, Johnny Depp was all right.
That's right. He wasn't them. Yeah. But see, look, we can't keep doing that. That's what this movie is, a parade of friends, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not actually worth anything in the movie, but like the fact that they put Johnny in there, he looked like natural. I don't know. It's the same as Al Pacino. I don't know. I don't feel great about it. Out of 5, what do you give it?
I give it a watch Billy Madison out of 5.
Yeah, I give it Adam Sandler's most recent stand-up special is actually pretty good out of 5.
This has been Beard Bros Movie Reviews on Jack and Jill. We're going to go have a sandwich and appreciate each other's sisters. Thanks, guys.
Oh! You won't know waggity sex no more. Waggity sex.
Kill that man. No. Why not?
You
I can just take an elevator.
No more. Waggity sex.
Used to be wackety sax.
Waggity sex. Waggity sex. Waggity sex.